Check 1, 2. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the meeting to order for Jan 13, 2013 for the City Council. And Madam Clerk, roll call and posting of the agenda.
Councilmember Perello?
Here.
Councilmember Turan?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McDonald?
Here.
Mayor Zaragoza?
Here.
Councilmember Basu and Councilmember Madrigal have not arrived. However, we do have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay.
The posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall Bulletin Board on December 21st, 2022.
Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers either virtually or here in the council chambers?
We do not have any speakers for closed session, virtually or in person. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so we're going to go to C1. This is conference with our real estate property negotiators. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will recess to a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to give instructions to its real property negotiators regarding property located at 2900 Saviors Road. The agency negotiators are Emilio Ramirez, Housing Director, Ashley Golden, Assistant City Manager, and Alex Newen, City Manager. Negotiating party is Cadence Capital Investments and BV Oxnard. Under negotiation are price and terms of payment, and the legislative body is the City Council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. City Manager. So we're going into closed session, and we'll be back at 6 p.m. for the opening ceremonies. Good evening. We're back from closed session and we're back. Mr. City Attorney, do we have any announcements out of closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. The council provided instructions to its real estate negotiators regarding the listed property. And other than that, there are no reports out of closed session.
Thank you. So now we have a special presentation, a proclamation for subject presentation of proclamation designating January 16, 2013 as Martin Luther King Day. And we'd like to invite some individuals from the MLK Committee, Loretta Montgomery, Vince Stewart, Dr. Ivan Jeffries, Marvin Graves, Heidi Gayton, and also Tracy Harris. Can you join us up here at the dais? Okay. So Larita is joining us. How are you? Come right in. We're going to have the boss come join us, right? How are you? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Happy New Year. So we have a proclamation that I'd like to share with you at this time. And this is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, January 16, 2013, whereas Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. worked to affirm the ideals of freedom, dignity, and opportunity for all races and people, helping our nations recognize the importance of upholding America's founding principles in equality and justice for all. Where Dr. King served as the voice of the conscience of our nation, and his words and actions continue to inspire courage, humility, compassion, and enduring contributions to America, to remind us, the countless and others around the world, that people should not be judged by the color of the skin, but the content of their character. And whereas January 16, 2013 has been set aside as a national holiday to pay tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King, the theme of this year's commemoration is "In Darkness, Be the Light, Striving for Freedom." Because Dr. King taught us that citizenship includes recognizing the value of each individual and each culture. And whereas the 37th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday celebration will be held Monday, the 16th, January 16th at 9 a.m. at the Oxnard Performing Arts Center. Convention Center will feature youth speakers, sculpture readings, the gospel music, and selection of LMAK Celebration Choir. Now therefore, I, John Zerkos, Mayor of the City of Oxnard, hereby proclaim January 16, 2013 as Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of Oxnard, and encourage all the residents to recognize the lasting truth of his words and legacy, and to renew our commitment to the principles of justice, equality, opportunity, optimism that Dr. Luther King espoused and amplified, and participate in the Freedom March and prayer starting at Plaza Park on the 16th at 2013 at 8 a.m., followed by the program at the Oxnard Performing Arts Center. This is signed by the Mayor of the City of Oxnard. Congratulations so much.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
And thank you. And I'd just like to share that I've been participating on this effort for a couple of decades already,
I think so.
going back to Bedford Pinkard, and I was there many, many times when it was raining and it didn't rain and there was wind and so forth. But it's always an honor to support the MLK March. I think you would like to share a couple of words.
Yes, a few words. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening. We thank the City of Oxnard, all who are in attendance tonight, and I'd like to, first of all, after thanking all of you, acknowledge the other members who are with me this evening. We have, to my right, Dr. Ivor Jeffries, longtime member, I'd say about 30 years at least. Chief Petty Officer Tracy Harris, a local military. Miss Haiti Gayton, longtime member. And over to my left, Vincent Stewart, longtime member. And we also have our own house resident photographer with us. Yes, Renee Stewart. Thank you. Well, on behalf of the Martin Luther King Committee of Ventura County, we would like to say thank you, Mayor. I know your first name so well, Alex, City Manager, Attorney, all of you, and especially big thank you to Luli. Oh my goodness. You have a gem. You have a gem. And she's definitely worth her weight in gold. Give her a raise, please. We ask that you all do join us on Monday, January 16th. Start with the Freedom March, just like it read in the proclamation, and then come on out to the program at the Oxnard Performing Arts Center. We're super excited because, you know, we've been virtual for the last couple of years due to the COVID, and we're gonna take that chance, but we're gonna be masked up now. So come prepared. But we'd like for everyone to join us and if you need the tickets online, everything, or you can see one of us for sure. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you.
Thank you, Loretta. Again,
One of our other members arrived. Marvis, would you please stand and be acknowledged? You can come forward. Marvis Graves. Thank you.
because we want you in the photo also. But again, I want to thank you so much. Like I said before, you know, I've always had the pleasure of being there for year after year after year, and rain or shine, right?
That's right.
Rain or shine. And I have been there before, so it really, really is an honor. And I think Martin Luther King has really done a lot for all of us, you know, for the community, whether you're black, brown, or what's the name of that song? The black, brown, or what was it then?
Oh my, don't get me to sing it now.
I want you to sing. Thank you so much. You want to take a photo?
Oh, yes.
This way.
One, two. Let's do one more. All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and appreciate it. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, there's my council girl there. Hey. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me
Thank
a
you.
little
Thank you.
hug. Gabby, should give me a little hug. Congratulations too, sweetheart. Oh, yes. Thank
Vince.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You got it. I'll be there. We still need to do the pledge. Yeah. And a couple times it said 2013. Oh, really? Yeah. 2023. So remember, it's 2023. Okay. Stand corrected. So now what we're going to do. Excuse me. So now what we're going to do is do the Pledge of Allegiance, but I'd like to share that when we do that, we'd take a moment of silence because there was a family here on Christmas Eve that was caught in a fire, and apparently one of the individuals or the head of household didn't make it. So a moment of silence, and also Councilman Tarun, you had somebody else that you wanted to share.
Thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity. Absolutely for the family who unfortunately was displaced and lost a family member in the fire on Christmas morning. I'd also like to ask after the Pledge of Allegiance if we could remain standing for just a moment of silence for Miss Barbara Driscoll, who is a longtime Oxnard resident, was also the Fremont South Neighborhood Council Secretary for a couple of decades, long before I was involved also, and still did her minutes by hand in cursive writing up until she decided not to take on that position. She just passed away on December 21st and was with her family and went peacefully, but I'm hoping that we can have a moment of silence also for her and her dedication to the community.
Please join us in the salute of our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Okay, our next item is, this is public comments, items not on the agenda. And I have one speaker, is Lang Martinez. And Madam Clerk, I'm not sure if you have any additional speakers on items not on the agenda, but Mr. Martinez, you got 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name's Lang Martinez. I'm a known homeless advocate here in Ventura County. I'd like to talk about the Housing First and understanding what Housing First is. Housing First is a situation that we had in downtown Oxnard over the weekend where an individual died. We also had Housing First back in the hotel when I was advocating for the Vagabond Hotel. And Housing First was when there was 6 overdoses. They were housed too, and they were first to get housed, and they died. What I can talk about in regards to the situation here with our homeless, we have a real problem here. The situation's not getting any better, it's getting worse. I don't understand why we're paying $3.125 million for Mercy House when we're only housing 80 individuals. The original contract was supposed to be for 110. What we did is we modified it so it would be at 70% of the capacity. We want to use the excuse of COVID. Well, COVID's been there, done that, but we're still housing 80 people, but we want to go ahead and we want to pay them more money. We also here in downtown Oxnard, we have a project. It's a shiny new dime or penny. We're going to pay $40 million and we're going to bring in 110 people and we're going to build these affordable housing. You know, this year alone, I think there was so many vouchers put out in regarding to people getting vouchers to get housed. How many of those actual people did get housed? I don't think that many. Mercy House actually had some people in their facility that actually got some of those vouchers, and a percentage of those people that did get housed, they actually died of overdoses in their apartments that they were giving Housing First. In one of my articles, Emilio Ramirez made the comment in one of my articles. He said, wouldn't they rather be living in their own house, sitting on their own couch and using? What kind of idiot says that? And why does the council, why do we let these people get away with talking that? Why would anybody make such a statement? We've already showed that that's not going to work and that's not a solution. I just got done doing something on the radio with Spence to Spence, which actually caused a lot of attention. I've been asked next year to start on a circuit as far as speaking in regards to homelessness, vagrancy, homeless, and homelessness, really understanding the definitions. The day I came here and I spoke before you, I asked you if we knew the individuals' names of the people that died. And Mary, you were very honest and you looked at me and you put your head down and you said, no. Do you know the name of the individual that died in Plaza Park? The guy that was hugging the pole as he was bleeding out to death and he died in the gutter. I was there. See, that situation was over alcoholism and a co-occurring disorder, mental. So I think maybe we should put them in a house. I don't think that's going to work. And we understand that Thousand Oaks has got a program going there with Ken Kraft. I was the original person that brought Ken Kraft and introduced Ken Kraft to Carmen Ramirez's office, and you guys wanted nothing to do with him at Lorenzo's place.
Thank you.
Your time is up.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers, either virtually or here in the audience, for items that are on the
Did I
agenda?
double dip?
Mayor, we do not have any additional speakers, virtually or in person, for items not on the agenda.
Thank you. Our next item is G1. This is a report of the city manager. Is there city manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Happy New Year, or at least the first new year for me.
Happy New Year.
So I have a few updates. We need a couple of slides to put on the screen, and then we have 2 matters of business to handle right after that. Okay, so this is a reminder that sometime last year, the governor announced that he would be terminating the state of emergency in California as of the end of February this year. So that's only less than 2 months away. So the next slide now is going to maybe cause anyone to scratch your head a little bit. This is our recent information from our local hospital here, St. John's. They reached out to our fire chief and asked for our potential need for our paramedics to provide backup to them in their parking lot. As you can see, before Christmas, their bed capacity was already at 97%. So you can see the information there and what that does to hospital and ambulance wait times. So we can see that we're unfortunately on an uptick with regard to various illnesses, including COVID. And following the news over New Year's weekend, there's now yet another subvariant that's sweeping the East Coast. So I'm not sure that we are entirely out of the woods yet, but just want people to be aware of the situation at St. John's currently. Then next is a quick reminder that we have more community meetings with regard to the cost of service for our water department. So the next meeting is this Saturday, January 7th. And then, and that's at the South Oxnard Community Center at 200 East Bard, starting at 10 a.m. After that, there'll be another one on Monday, January 23rd, starting at 6 p.m., and that will be at the River Ridge Golf Course in the community room there. So these announcements are available on the website, and we're also pushing them out across various forms of media. So that's all I have for these routine updates. Next, we have 2 items of business. So one is the reconsideration of local emergency due to an ongoing drought conditions. So we need council, I believe, to take action on this one.
So you need a motion.
So
on that.
our Public Works Director's here if you have any questions. And I know it's been raining, but we are still in the midst of a severe drought. So we need council action on this item.
Item G1.
Yes.
So we need a motion on that.
Just a real quick comment.
Go ahead, Mr.
And the city manager alluded to this, it has been raining quite a bit the last couple of days, but our water supplies are not refurbished or regenerated by rain. We lose most of the rain to the ocean.
To the ocean, yeah.
Where we get the true replenishment is from the snowpack in the Sierras. And so I would urge people to consider this still to be a drought, even though there has been a good amount of rain, and still conserve water because we're not anywhere out of the woods yet. And with that, I would move the recommended action.
Okay, got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilor Perrello. Please vote. Is it working? No. Okay.
Motion passes 5-0.
And by the way, Councilman Madrigal is going to be a little bit late, just for information. Okay, so we have G2, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, and this is renewing the AB 361 declaration so that we can continue to have remote meetings as necessary. This is also something we do every month.
Okay, so we're okay with that then? With action
I'll
on
move that.
The motion?
So moved.
First by Councilman Chiron, second by Councilman Perrello. Please vote.
So I will read the findings before we announce that vote. So this is that the council reauthorize remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the city of Oxnard in accordance with Assembly Bill 361 based on the following findings. The current COVID situation, particularly with its variants, is causing and will continue to cause imminent risks to the health and safety of persons within the city, including city council members, city staff, appointed officials, and members of the public. State and local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing, and the governor's COVID-19 state of emergency is still in effect, and numerous public agencies throughout Ventura County are still operating in accordance with Assembly Bill 361 for the reasons stated herein.
Thank you. Please vote.
Mayor, may I please have the first and the second for this item?
Councilman Tehran, second by Councilman Perrella.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is, this is City Council and the mayor. At this time, the City Council may make any brief announcements or reports on their activities, and also to share with you have any items you might want to submit for further agendas at 3 minutes. Councilman, who wants to go first? Perrella?
Thank you, Mayor. I hope everyone had a good holidays. Back to normal business. A couple of things I'd like to point out. There's an item later on the agenda, and I'll address it again when it gets to that point. But it deals with downtown and it deals with restrooms that my concern right now. As you get to a certain age in life, there will come a time when you've needed to use a restroom in a public area, and there may or may not have been a restroom, and you've needed to do whatever you could do. And if you're fortunate enough, you never experienced losing that need. With respect to what's going on in downtown, we need to somehow come to the decision where we're going to put public restrooms. At one time, they were supposed to be in the parking lot. When the parking structure was built, the city changed its mind. The Downtown Improvement District worked with a private organization, got their own toilets. The owner of the toilets stopped wanting to rent to the city because various individuals, I would say vandals, some people said homeless, some people say thugs, were destroying the property. So they stopped renting them to the downtown. There needs to be a site where you can have portable toilets. Talking with 2 business people today, the issue is not getting better. And a suggestion was given that we start looking, and as the chair of the Public Works Committee, we do something sooner than later. I believe that the people that are bringing the advocates for the homeless and the affordable housing, they're all necessary. But I don't believe the homeless issue is going to be going away. That fact that it's not going away needs more of an issue. You got to have a public place to go to the bathroom. A civil society has to have a public place to go to the bathroom. And it needs to be 24/7. Now, however we do it, there are examples, and the city of Amsterdam, which is an example of something that works. I hope that the city can address that. I'll volunteer, needed to go somewhere to look, but I'll volunteer to do that. The second thing, it was mentioned earlier and we had a moment of silence, an individual died. We're getting a flash that apparently somebody else just died. Christmas, 1 individual passed away from burns. 2 individuals are in critical condition from burns. Having been burnt with 3rd-degree burns, just a little bit, it's a big deal. But that incident displaced 11 other people. 15 people were involved in that single structure. The New Year's Day incident, there was a family that was displaced because of carbon monoxide poisoning. They're using a barbecue and briquettes, apparently to keep the place warm, in a garage that was not deemed to be habitable. Some information just came to my attention. I know that the city has people that check this. We have public safety, they check it, but there has to be some sort of an action that can be taken against individuals that are operating facilities that are not up to code. And I'm very grateful that I was just informed a little while ago that in the past, an individual that had to leave a facility because it was not up to code was able to prevail in court when he showed that the place had been rented to him as habitable, and in fact it was not. And he was able to recover all back rent from the individual that rented it to him. I hope that whoever hears this and knows people share that information, because this is our city, this is where I live, this is where you live. This is a situation that, there are people living in areas that God forbid, and God, I'm grateful as hell that I'm not living in those areas, but somebody is. And when we have had in the past attempts to try to straighten out this issue, it has not worked very successfully. And I can understand, it's a very damned catch-22. If we Displace the people that are living in uninhabitable places. The argument is for people, where are you going to put them on the street? It's a catch-22. But we've had 2 fatalities, we've had 1 fatality and damn near more fatalities just on the holiday weekend. How many go unreported? That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem? You know, okay, Councilman Sua?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to go ahead and wish everybody a Happy New Year. I've had inquiries in regards to District 6. The property Savior, Samuel Avenue, Yucca, Bryce Canyon. We know we don't have a representative right now, but I just want to make sure that the people that are listening realize that I know Mayor Pro Tem McDonald has been actively requesting resources out there, and I this evening have also requested additional resources. So we are listening, and we do have resources coming to that area. Thank you.
And I also want to share that District 6 does not have a representative yet, but however, anybody has any concerns, they can also call my office, and I'd be happy to help in any way I can too, just for information. Councilman Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just some quick updates. I want to thank everybody again for taking the moment of silence for the residents we observed earlier. Much thanks again to Ms. Barbara Driscoll for her service to her community and to all of the many things she did in her lifetime to serve her community and her profession as a nurse. 2 quick things. In District 2, there are 2 neighborhood council meetings coming up in January, one on the 18th for River Park at 6 p.m., and then the other is Carriage Square Neighborhood Council, 7 p.m. the following day, Thursday the 19th. I believe the 18th will be at Rio Vista Middle School, and then the 19th for Carriage Square will be at Curran Elementary School. And I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and looking forward to a great 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd also like to share, I want a Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everybody had a great time. And I'd just like to start by saying that it's been an honor for me to work with the different city departments in the city of Oxnard in the year 2022. And appreciate all the work, great work that our directors, our city employees are doing to continue to serve the community of Oxnard. And to the city manager, I know he doesn't like me to say this, but I want to thank you for all your help, your leadership, to continue to provide the services to our residents and to helping our employees, and also to working with the entire city council, which you have done an excellent job, and you and our city attorney have done a great job for the city council. And again, I want to thank the city council members, and I mentioned over and over again, I still believe this is probably the best city council that I've worked with. And I know I say it over and over again, and I've worked with a lot of councils and also other agencies, and I believe this is probably the best that I've worked with, which I really, really want to thank. So with that, I think we're going to have a great 2023. And I would thank everybody for being here today. Thank you so much for that. Okay, our next item is, and this is the city manager's item, subject's appointment of members to serve the city's CAGs and boards. And the recommendation that the mayor, and with the approval of the city council, make the following appointments. Number 1, to the Senior Services Commission, Jeffrey Newvett and Larita Montgomery to the Senior Services Commission. Number 2, to Community Relations Commission, Kyla Duras. To the number 3, the Planning Commission is Daniel Chavez Jr. To the Mobile Home Park Review Board, Efren Jimenez. So council members, any comments or we need a motion?
So moved.
Nope, I actually have some comments first. Thank you, Mayor. We had received communication from a member of the public regarding this item and one of the appointments. And I would like to request that we take items 1, 2, and 3 as a vote, and item 4 as a separate vote.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and take item 1, 2, 3. Mr. Maker of the motion, you want to do that, or you want to?
No, if there's a request to break it up, I'd like the individual that requested it to explain.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
So in the communication, there were some screenshots sent to us for the applicant for recommendation number 4 regarding disparaging remarks that this person makes toward public individuals, not necessarily only members of the city council or city staff, but other members of the public, stating things and carrying themselves in a way that I don't feel that a CAG member is going to be doing themselves any favors by in stating things publicly or carrying themselves in this manner. As a former CAG member myself on the Parks and Rec Commission, I know that I held myself to a higher standard of what I said and how I said it. And in this email, it had screenshots and really did their homework on making their point. And for that reason, I'd like to have this item voted on separately.
we can, go ahead.
Quick comment.
Mayor
The
Pro
Mobile
Tem.
Home Rent Review Board is kind of a unique board in that it is state mandated. My understanding is that the name that is listed for that board is currently seated on the board as a member, so that even if there's no replacement, that person would remain on the board regardless of what we do action-wise. Is that close, Mr. City Manager, in terms of a description?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. City Manager, we can go ahead and there was a motion in a second, and we can vote for all 4 or 3 or 2 or whatever, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the motion was
My
to,
motion was for item 1, which included all 4.
All
And,
4, okay.
If there was a second, I didn't hear it, but I heard there was, possibly wanted to have a separate vote on item 4.
but we can go ahead, the discussion was made now, but however.
I'm
you can vote.
willing,
You
I'm
can
willing to
vote.
make the motion for items 1, 2, and 3, and then I'll make a motion separately for item 4 for its own vote.
You Make the, second, let's go and second to Perala's motion. Go ahead. So we have, Madam Clerk, it's a motion by Councilman Perallo, second by Councilman Basua. And then we can vote on that, and they can,
Just for clarification, can I hear Councilmember Perillo's motion then?
okay, you wanted to vote for 1, 2, 3, and 4, correct?
Yes, to approve 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't know, do we have any public comments on this?
Not yet.
Mayor,
we have
we
any
do
public
not have
comments?
any public speakers in person or virtually for this item.
So we can vote on this 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can vote accordingly. You can vote for the ones you want.
So I have a question. So if the vote passes,
The motion on the floor right now is to vote 1, 2, 3, and 4 up or down.
so if it passes, Councilman,
He can vote separately, right? Mr. City Manager,
I just
go
wanna
ahead.
make sure
I mean,
it's
City
on the
Attorney.
record.
So there's a motion on the floor. First motion by Councilmember Perello, correct?
1 to 4,
And then before there was a second. Am I getting the timing correct?
The second by
Then
Basua.
No, there was.
No, before
there
there
was
was
no
a
second.
second, there was a.
before there was a
discussion.
second, then Councilmember Turan made a separate motion.
Correct.
Yes.
So as the presiding officer, the mayor, I think you need to resolve the first.
First
So,
motion.
so the second was given, and I'm assuming your motion, you didn't make a motion to amend, you just, Councilmember Turan just made a separate motion. So the motion on the floor is Councilmember Perello's motion.
And second by Basua.
Correct.
Okay, so we
So
vote on
an-
that first.
Unless there is a specific motion to amend what is on the floor.
Then I would like the motion to amend.
Okay, go ahead.
So I would like the motion to amend to take items 1, 2, and 3 with a separate vote for item 4.
So do we vote on first motion?
Well,
Needs-
first,
he
there
needs a
needs to be a second.
Do we need a second for your motion then? Do we have a motion for Turan's?
But just to clarify, regardless of this vote, the individual will still sit on the board.
Yeah.
Until a replacement is found, per that CAG's bylaws.
So we don't have a second on your motion.
Okay, if there's no second, there's no second.
Okay. So then we'll go back to Councilmember Perello's there's a first and a second. Please
The,
vote.
if,
1 to 4.
and I'm sure Councilman Turan knows this, he can vote yes on 1, 2, 3 and say no on 4, and that will still count. But you could abstain
this
from
motion.
number 4.
Correct?
And I would ask the city attorney to address that.
City Attorney, so now his first did not get a second. Now we go into Perello's and second by Basua for the 4. Can he still vote and vote no on his particular,
Yes, he can vote on the motion that's on the floor.
okay, good. Let's go ahead, and please vote. Roll call vote for that.
Councilmember Turan,
Yes on 1, 2, and 3, no on 4.
Okay.
Councilmember Perello,
Yes on 1 through 4.
Mayor Zaragoza,
Yes on 1 through 4.
Councilmember Basua, Mayor Pro Tem McDonald.
Yes on all 4.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Our next item is, this is a city attorney's department, the resolution supporting the LGBTQ plus community. The recommendation that the city council adopt a resolution declaring the city of Oxnard's solidarity and support of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ plus community, and opposing any discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity or expression. And we do have quite a few speakers, so I'd like to, Mr. City Attorney, any additional information on that, so we go to the speakers.
So this item was requested by Councilmember Turan, so I will let him explain his request to bring this item onto the agenda.
Go ahead, and then we'll call for the speakers.
Thank you. I just want to briefly say, and then we'll go to the speakers, that this item is something that unfortunately is as a follow-up or reaction to the tragic Club Q shooting that happened several weeks ago. And unfortunately, because of the news cycle, it seems like that was another age ago. But it's still fresh in the minds of many, and many who absolutely deserve to have these types of events and tragedies not repeat themselves. As a city, I believe that we have a platform as a council. We have folks who are leaders in our community who have platforms and should be uplifting and creating visibility and spaces for folks who are ever targeted or threatened in such a manner. And so I appreciate this item being brought forward to allow this council an opportunity to stand in solidarity with our LGBTQ plus community. And so that's a quick introduction. I'll turn it back to you, Mayor, if you'd like to open to speakers.
Thank you, Councilmember. So we do have several speakers, and I'm going to name a couple at a time. So first of all, we have Victoria and DeFrey, followed by Brian Rodriguez, and then Daniel Blum. Victoria, DeFrey, and DeFrey, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Oh, good. Come on up. You've got 3 minutes.
Kind of short. Okay. Thank you, Mayor Zaragoza and council members, for your time and energy today. This is my partner, Daphne Aguila, and I am Victoria Palomares, and we are representing our nonprofit organization, Oxnard LGBTQ Community. And we are in favor of this resolution supporting the rights, freedoms, and equal treatment of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, plus people in our beautiful city of Oxnard. Our organization serves LGBTQ people by promoting education, health, mental wellness, and safe and affirming spaces within the city. A quick trigger warning for gun violence. Oxnard LGBTQ community was founded after the murder of L. King, a youth of color who was a victim of gun violence and homophobia. L. King, who was an Oxnard resident, attended E.O. Green Middle School, and on February 12, 2008, their life was tragically cut for just expressing their gender and identity. It is unfortunately very common to experience discrimination and that kind of violence as an LGBTQ individual. Our mission at Oxnard LGBTQ is to continue to provide safe spaces for all people to not just survive, but thrive. With this resolution brought forward by Councilmember Gabe Duran, thank you, we hope that it can begin a positive impact and important ongoing change in our community, because Oxnard is a multicultural and diverse community, and all of its residents deserve to feel safe and welcome. And Daphne is gonna do a Spanish rendition of this.
Okay.
Buenas tardes y gracias por su tiempo al Consejo Municipal y alcalde de Zaragoza. Mi nombre es Dafne Aguilar, representando la organización Oxnard LGBTQ. Estamos aquí a favor de esta resolución de trato, que apoya los derechos de libertad e igualdad de trato a las personas de la comunidad lesbiana, gay, bisexual, transgénero y más. Nuestra organización proporciona servicio a las personas LGBTQ al promover educación, salud, al bienestar emocional y espacios seguros e inclusivos dentro de esta ciudad. Nuestra organización fue fundada después del desafortunado asesinato de Elle King, una joven de color que fue parte de la comunidad, quien fue víctima de la violencia armada y de la homofobia. Elle King era residente de Oxnard y asistió a la escuela secundaria E.O. Green, y el 12 de febrero del 2008 su luz fue apagada por solo expresar su identidad de género. Desafortunadamente es muy común la discriminación y este tipo de violencia como individuo LGBTQ. Nuestra misión es crear espacios seguros para que la comunidad LGBTQ no solo pueda sobrevivir, sino florecer. Con esta resolución presentada por el concejal Gabe Duran, esperamos que pueda comenzar un impacto positivo y un importante cambio continuo de nuestra comunidad. Gracias a todos.
Thank you, gracias. Next speaker is Brian Rodriguez, followed by Danielle Blum. Brian?
All right. Good evening and Happy New Year, distinguished mayor, council, and city staff. My name is Brian Rodriguez, and I'm a resident of the city of Oxnard. And I'm here to urge you to vote yes on the resolution to support the LGBTQ community here in Oxnard. I want to thank Councilmember Gabe Tran for your leadership in bringing this forward. There are cities in this county who are unwilling to support and acknowledge the LGBTQ community, and it is a shame and quite frankly embarrassing. The LGBTQ community face discrimination and inequalities, and this resolution is an important step in uplifting and supporting the community. So I once again respectfully urge you to vote in favor of the proposed resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Danielle Blum, followed by Odette. Danielle Blum. Is Odette here? Okay, then we'll go to the other list. So, and we have Ronnie Miranda, followed by Robert O'Reilly.
Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be speaking to you again about this resolution. I think it's very important for us to include everyone in our community and to declare that that we are an inclusive community. I have complete confidence that you will all support this resolution. I want to thank you, Gabe, for bringing it out here and putting it forward so that our LGBTQ plus community can feel that they are a whole citizen in the city of Oxnard. It's very important that it's 2023, and I cannot imagine any reason why this would be opposed for any reason whatsoever. Thank you so much. I have complete confidence in your vote.
Thank you. Robert O'Reilly, followed by Stephen.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Danielle Blum is available virtually.
Who's that?
Danielle Blum?
Oh, okay.
She is available virtually.
We'll go ahead and listen to her first, and then we'll follow with Robert O'Reilly.
Miss Danielle Blum?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you so much. My name is Danielle Bloom, and I am calling to express my support and appreciation for the resolution declaring the City of Oxnard's solidarity and support for the LGBTQ plus communities and opposing discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity or expression. Thank you for recognizing the need to make safe our vulnerable community members. Discrimination has no place in our communities, and the consequences can be dire. Please continue to support these life-saving measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert O'Reilly, followed by Stephen Leclerc. Robert, 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Zaragoza, Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, council members, and city staff. A special thank you to Councilmember Tehran for bringing this forward. My name is Robert O'Reilly, and I stand before you tonight proudly representing the office of Ventura County Supervisor Vianney Lopez and as a member of the LGBTQ plus community. I am here to express my strong support for the resolution declaring the city's solidarity and support of the rights of the LGBTQ plus community. As a gay man, I know firsthand the struggles and discrimination often faced within this community, and it is critical, that our city takes a stand against this type of discrimination and shows its support for all members of our community, regardless of their orientation or identity. Significant progress has been made in recent years, but there is still much work to be done to ensure that we are treated with the same dignity and respect as everyone else. By passing this resolution, the City Council has the opportunity to send a strong message of inclusion and acceptance, and to show that Oxnard is a welcoming and supportive place for all. I urge the City Council to pass this resolution and stand with the LGBTQ plus community in solidarity. Thank you all for your time and consideration, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Stephen Leclerc, followed by Louis Andrade.
Mayor Lopez, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor Zaragoza, Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, and council members. Thank you for being a leader on this issue. I know that you will vote to pass this resolution and continue to be a leader in our community on these issues. You know, next week, and I know other speakers will touch on this, next week will mark what would have been Letitia King's 30th birthday. And next month will mark 15 years since their killing. So I think a resolution like this is past due, but important, and important to remind ourselves and the community of the work that continues. Thank you for leading and your support, and thank you for supporting the LGBTQ community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Andrade, followed by Micaela Perez.
Thank you, Mayor Zaragoza and City Council of the City of Oxnard. My name is Louis Andrade, and I serve on the Board of Directors as Vice President for Diversity Collective Ventura County, the premier nonprofit that serves the LGBTQ community in Ventura County. As you know, the violence and threats of violence towards LGBTQ plus persons and the centers that serve them has increased. What you may not know is that this trickles down to some of our youngest community members. LGBTQ youth are more than twice as likely to report experiencing persistent feelings of sadness, hopelessness, than their heterosexual peers. According to the National Youth Risk Behavior Survey, 34% of the LGBT students were bullied on school property. 28% were bullied electronically. 18% experienced physical dating violence. These issues set up a lifetime of depression and strife. Adults who were bullied as children report a greater instance of mental and physical health issues, as well as less success in the workplace and fewer friends. The actions of this council are a first step in creating a brighter and more productive community all around. Your resolution also sets a standard in Ventura County. Through this resolution, we, the LGBTQ plus population, understand that Oxnard is continually working together towards a greater inclusion. And inclusion is everything. At DCVC, our mission is to provide advocacy, visibility, safety, wellness for the LGBTQ plus community. It is with gratitude that we stand here today as part of Oxnard and a growing, thriving place for all to live, work, and play. Thank you for your insight, and should you need anything further, please know that you are always welcome at Diversity Collective. Thank you, Mayor Zaragoza and City Councils of Oxnard.
Thank you. Okay, Michaela Perez, followed by Joseph Summers.
Good evening, City Council members, Mayor Pro Tem, and Mayor Zaragoza. Tonight, I'm speaking in support of the LGBTQ plus solidarity resolution proposed by Council member Gabe Tran. Thank you so much, Gabe Tran, for introducing this prominent resolution. This means a lot to our community. In 2008, I was a student at E.O. Green Junior High in District 6 when young LGBTQ community member was killed while school was in session. While that was almost 15 years ago, many of us are still healing from that incident. It is crucial that the City of Oxnard condemn violence against the LGBTQ plus community. Our community, and especially our youth, deserve to feel safe and welcome. The attacks towards the LGBTQ community have led to a national terrorism advisory released by the Department of Homeland Security to warn us of the domestic terrorist threats towards LGBTQ communities. We should not take this warning lightly. This resolution sends a strong message that discrimination and hate are not welcome here. We must continue to stand strong on our collective understanding that each community member in Oxnard and surrounding cities deserve to be treated with respect and dignity and should be given equal opportunities to thrive. I want to thank the LGBTQ plus organizations that are here tonight, that are working directly with our community, providing resources, and working at the forefront of civil rights policy and advocacy. There is a sacred saying utilized by our indigenous Mayan relatives that I'd like to share, called In Lakesh. You are my other me. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. If I love and respect you, I love and respect myself. I believe that we have a lot to learn from our indigenous relatives, and when we come together based on our core commonalities, we can begin to create a future that our children and families deserve. I would even suggest including LGBTQ2+ in the resolution to be inclusive of our two-spirited indigenous relatives. As a candidate for Oxnard City Council, I look forward to collaborating on further critical issues such as this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joseph Summers, and the last speaker is going to be Mariana Parra. Joseph.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Zaragoza and council members. My name is Joseph Summers, and I'm a lifelong county resident and an advocate for mental and physical health services for the LGBTQ plus community here in Oxnard. I'm here to speak to and for and support the resolution in support of the LGBTQ plus community, and thank Council Member Gabe Turan for bringing it forward. It is the responsibility of our local, state, and national governments to be resolute in its protection of all of its citizens, especially marginalized communities. This resolution states the recent rise in violence against the LGBTQ community, and as Michaela alluded to, is in line with the Department of Homeland Security announcing that domestic terrorism against the LGBTQ plus community is on a rise. I teach a training giving adults the tools needed to affirm LGBTQ youth in their care. Research has shown that it only takes one affirming adult to reduce suicide, depression, and anxiety in LGBTQ youth by 40%. This resolution will affirm the identities of Oxnard citizens and, quite frankly, save lives. So again, I thank Gabe Turan for bringing the resolution forward, and I encourage all of you to vote yes on it. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mariana Parra, followed by Arthur Valenzuela, Jr. Parra, is she in? Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Hakukinteach, Marianne. Hi, my name is Marianne, and I'm really thankful to be here tonight, and I'm really thankful to be speaking with you all, especially with Councilmember Turan. I appreciate that you've brought this forward. There is a lot of communities within Oxnard and has always been a multicultural. We seem to forget over time and have left certain people out of this community. The community, it's crucial that we recognize the LGBT community. It's not something new, it's not a trend, it's not something that has just popped up over the last few years. As a Chumash woman in our culture, there has been two-spirited people. Two-spirit is a fairly new term. For our history, most of the times we come the Atishwan was a spiritual person and they were a two-spirit person. There are many other communities and cultures that have had people in their communities for time immemorial. It's not something new. We need to bring back those understandings of the practices and the people in our communities that have been there. What they do, what they represent is really important for us to hear their voices as well, to bring them back to the forefront. They have a seat at our table. We welcome them. And I think that I sat with a friend Saturday, and it makes me emotional to know that she was out with her wife. Someone pushed her up against the wall and called her a derogatory slur because she was holding hands with her wife. This was a few days ago, 2022. This should no longer be happening. But as we see violence on the rise for BIPOC communities, LGBT communities, is extremely high. We don't feel safe in our own communities. And people should be able to step outside their home, to walk in a park, to go out to dinner with their loved ones, regardless of who they love, what color they are, and be able to enjoy their time as anybody else, and to not be called names, to feel safe, to walk to their car, to have an evening stroll, and know that they're going to be okay. So many of our communities, including when COVID came, are facing, everybody feels so threatened, so scared of each other. People don't say hi to each other, people call each other names, and it's really hard because we want to go out there and we want to be with our friends and we want to be able to do things. We want to feel normal, to feel okay, and know that we have a voice. And I don't want anybody to feel, there was a meeting here and somebody called in and specifically said, we are the only ones that have the right to be here. So for me to hear something like that when it was directed towards myself, and I don't want to make this about myself, but I just want to bring that point up that we still have very patriarchal mindsets of these people don't belong here, but we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Arthur Valenzuela Jr., and then we'll have a couple of virtual calls. Go ahead, Art.
Thank you, Mayor Zaragoza, members of the Oxnard City Council. I am here to speak in support of the resolution to support the LGBTQ community and oppose discrimination or violence or any form of negative action towards the LGBTQ plus community. Thank you, Councilmember Gabe Turan, for bringing this forward. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I see the need to continually show presence for and stand up to those who may choose to discriminate. I do support this resolution, and I do think it's a good start where we side ourselves and on LGBTQ with the LGBTQ community. I think some of the ideas that we could put forward that the city of Oxnard could use for the LGBTQ community. Some things are like making it like a city policy for the city of Oxnard to also like for the police department, when there is a action towards transgender men or women, that they be identified by their identity that they prefer to go by, not by their birth name. That's a form of insult to injury. Another thing that we could look at is how the city council can reach out to the Ventura County Healthcare Agency and ask for an updated report on HIV and AIDS in the city of Oxnard and Ventura County. I think the last report on that has been in 2020. So some of the ways that the city of Oxnard could work with other public agencies to support the LGBTQ community. But tonight, I'm just asking you to support this resolution, and thank you for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so in the virtual, we have Odette on the as one of the callers, Madam Clerk.
Odette? Please, hi. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Odette. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs, and I am here to speak in support of the resolution declaring solidarity and support for Oxnard's Two-Spirit LGBTQIA+ community. When I was younger, I often wondered what the future would be like, dreams of how society and our community would change with a mindset of love and care. I was very optimistic, especially after the same-sex marriage became legal in the early 2000s and queer visibility started to become more widely embraced. And yet, still scared because that's also the time that L. King was murdered. The truth is that at that time, and our truth now, more than 10 years later, is that not much has changed when it comes to acts of hatred and violence towards our Two-Spirit LGBTQIA+ community, as we've seen in our history and in most recent crimes just mentioned by many speakers. I cannot begin to explain the resulting fear that I fear every day as I try to navigate everyday life. Where will I be safe being my most authentic self? Should I introduce myself with my pronouns to potential new workspaces? In this application, I speak to the stranger, and this fear has also led me to carry a CPR mask and an emergency kit wherever I go. I fear for the worst and want to be prepared if anything happens. People treat you different and can be more hateful without even knowing it. Embodied hate is very prevalent in our actions and those of our community. Knowing that there's a resolution that is in solidarity with Oxnard's queer community is important for our safety and as we navigate our everyday life. Please vote in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, I understand we have another speaker.
One more speaker. Actually, now we have 2 more virtual
Okay.
speakers.
Okay.
Virtual caller with number ending in 0218.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Steve Nash. And I want to thank Councilmember Gabe Teran for bringing this forward. I wrote you all an email shortly after the Q Club massacre. There are those who would say that this sort of resolution is meaningless, and the city has no business discussing it, much less approving it. I believe the political bodies have the absolute authority and necessity to propose and adopt resolutions of this nature. It's your, I would say it's your sacred duty to be aspirational. We must remember that we are all one, and that whatever moral code we operate under, the protection of all communities has to be its centerpiece. We cannot stand by and remain silent because silence is acquiescence. Silence means more will die. As the murders against our LGBTQ+ community mount, the silence from some of the people we have placed in positions of leadership is awful and inexplicable. This is no time to hold one's tongue. Violence and discrimination born of intolerance and marginalization continue to take lives and create barriers to equity and opportunity for this community and their families. The goal of achieving full legal and lived equality for LGBTQ+ people and their families can only be met with the support of local leaders who are in a position to make decisions that fully include and protect LGBTQ+ people. We all know members of this community. Almost universally, they are some of the kindest, most giving people I know. And all they ever wanted was the opportunity to be accepted into our larger community and accepted to love the people they choose to love without judgment, without hatred, without opprobrium. These people are our brothers and sisters. They are not groomers. They are not pedophiles. They are not looking to convert you. They just want to live their lives the same as the rest of us. So please support this resolution, and I wish you all a happy new year and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, we have another speaker.
Yes, Mayor, one more speaker. Virtual caller with phone number ending in 6377. Please unmute by pressing *6.
Hello.
Yes, hello, welcome. Please go ahead and introduce yourself if you'd like. and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Manuel Herrera. I'm the creator of Citizens for a Better Oxnard. However, I'm here representing myself. I'm just going to make this short and sweet. I just want to call to say I am in full support of the resolution supporting the LGBTQ plus community. I want to echo everything that all the speakers have said, especially the last speaker, Mr. Nash. I think it was very, very well said. And also I wanted to say that I don't think it's a coincidence that earlier today you were honoring the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. This was someone who fought for the rights of people. And today, hopefully you will pass this resolution acknowledging the LGBTQ plus community and acknowledging that they too have rights. So also wanted to thank Councilman Gabe Turan for bringing this forward. And just one more reminder that, you know, we're all brothers and sisters, and we all belong to the same race. It's called the human race. So let's not forget that. Let's all work together. Let's all remember that we all have the same rights, and that together is how we will make things happen. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Bye.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, any additional speakers, either in the audience or virtually?
Mayor, we do not have any additional speakers virtually or in person for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, council members. We need a motion on this item. Comments? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm just teasing.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will start out by saying I will absolutely support this resolution. And I find it somewhat saddening that we've almost got 250 years of existence in this country, and we still have not figured out completely that all members of our community are precious, that all of members of our community have rights. And I say that from my own perspective of, I really don't care who someone is in public with and who they care to hold hands with or who they care to live with or what. That's their choice. That's their right. And it's none of my business. I could care less about the color of someone's skin or their religious denomination, you know, any of that stuff. That's not important. What's important to me is that I'm treated like a human being and that they are treated like a human being and that we have equal rights. All the other stuff is just, to me, it's not anything that I need to be worried about other than all of our community members are precious. All of them need to be protected. And it just really saddens me that we as a country, as a nation, still after almost 250 years, are having trouble getting our act together and recognizing that all members of our society are important, not just one particular group over another. And you see this happening. We saw it happen during COVID when there was increased attacks on the Asian community because some people, for whatever reason, had that misguided belief that that community might have something to do with it. That's stupid. It's insane. You know, treat people as they treat you. Councilmember Turan, thank you for bringing this forward. And I will absolutely support this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Turan.
Thank you, Mayor. I absolutely want to thank all the members of the community who have come out tonight, spoken here in person and virtually in support of this resolution, as well as the folks who sent messages, written comments ahead of the meeting. I also appreciate folks giving me thanks for it. I didn't do this to get sole credit on this. This is absolutely something that I have the benefit and the fortune to be able to have a platform to put things like this forward, especially when they're this important, include key members of our community, members who have testified tonight saying there are times that they do not feel safe in their own community. And that's not right in 2023, that we still have folks who cannot walk down the street and feel safe to be their authentic self. I do want to thank Mr. Nash, who called in as well and left a comment. His email was well received and heard and was one of the catalysts for asking to have this move forward. I also want to thank Victoria and Daphne and LGBTQ Oxnard for helping and reviewing the language to make sure it was inclusive and had the voice of the community. And I just want to say that a few more things around this. Some folks might have said, and I know Mr. Nash brought it up, well, what's the point of a resolution? It's words on a paper. What does it really do? And oftentimes, the mere act of validating and acknowledging someone's presence and their struggles reminds them that they are part of this community. They are human beings who are among us and have families and loved ones and wants, desires, and challenges. And that absolutely deserves to be acknowledged. And whether it's words on a piece of paper, words spoken verbally, or actions done by a council or members of their community, their neighbors, their family, their friends, everyone deserves to be validated and acknowledged, especially if they feel unsafe in their own community. That being said, when we talk about the LGBTQ plus community, when we have situations of ongoing discrimination and targeted legislation at the state level in other states of this country, that's a problem. That is absolutely problematic. And as a legislative body, we absolutely have a responsibility to show that we do not agree with that and we stand in solidarity with those members of our community who are being targeted legislatively, but also with acts of violence and hatred and other types of discrimination. We absolutely deserve to provide platforms and spaces to uplift them where others are trying to keep them down. Not only is being acknowledged with them as part of the community and denouncing acts of violence toward them important, but standing in solidarity with them shows that we also do not condone the violence and discrimination that's being perpetrated upon an entire section of our community. And I will say that every single person on this dais has taken an oath of office to uphold the constitutions of the United States of America and the state of California. And I absolutely took that seriously, especially the part that said against all threats, foreign and domestic. And right now, domestically, we have people not just who are having acts of physical violence towards this community, but acts of subtle violence and hatred and discrimination through legislation. And we absolutely cannot stand for that. So I absolutely use this to uphold that oath that I took, and I took it seriously, and I take it seriously. And as someone who has had homophobic jokes and statements and slurs made toward me as recently as this last election cycle, I absolutely hear where you all are coming from. I want you to know you were seen. I hope that this visibility tonight at least gives you that, that assurance that you have my support and I stand in solidarity with you. And I want to thank everybody for coming out again, thank our staff for bringing this forward, the City Attorney's Office, and I thank my colleagues for having this item come forward, and I'm looking forward to the vote, and I will make the motion when that time comes. Thank you.
Okay, well, Councilman Perillo.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank all the people that showed tonight and those that called in to announce this. There were some points made tonight. I'd like to share a little history of myself. Former President Reagan, when he was against the AIDS and wouldn't help, I spoke out on that publicly with other members of the community. Doesn't mean I'm better or worse than anybody else. When the youth was murdered at E.O. Green, a friend of mine, Edward Castillo, asked me to get there ASAP because his 2 daughters were in those classes. I went. I saw things that I wished I'd never seen. With respect to the oath of office, Councilman Turan is actually correct. I took an oath of office along with him just recently. Took a pledge to uphold the state and the federal laws in place. When it comes to ceremonial and possibly things that make people feel good, I'm not warm and fuzzy on that. I'll ask some questions that are hard-hitting questions. I'll support this, but I want some things laid on the table so no one is misunderstanding what's going on. And I've already asked my city attorney. I told him what I was going to ask. Mr. City Attorney, will this put any more teeth in the laws that are in place in the state of California or the federal laws in the United States.
No, this is a resolution of the position of the city that's before the city council.
Thank you. Do we have any examples of the district attorney not pursuing cases that have been brought on this? And some of you may not remember. When this came up about Asian and hate, and we had the district attorney make a presentation, I asked a question. Took a lot of heat because I used a term that was not appropriate at the time. But I did pursue it with the district attorney, and to his credit, he met with me, involved with the issue, and there was a resolution. Didn't work out the way I thought it should, but the facts and evidence carried the day. There wasn't enough facts and evidence. Mr. City Attorney, do we have any information that the district attorney has not carried any cases that have been derived out of the city of Oxnard on matters such as we're discussing?
I'm not aware of any, but I don't have that consistent interaction with the district attorney's office, so I'm probably not the person to ask about that.
Thank you very much. As I said, I'll support this, but there's no mistaking. Hate is a big deal in this country. Gun violence is a big deal in this country. I don't like you, you don't like me, somebody doesn't like somebody else, they say something, they think they can get away with it. Mob mentality. We have a city that, you know, every flagpole. Recently, the city manager's credit, with the council's support, flew the gay pride flag. I got to be when they lifted one up. I went to the county when they did it. I mean, it doesn't make me better or worse than anyone else in this room or on this dais. But there are things that need to be taken care of internally. The things that are taught, love, peace, hate, those things are taught. People learn those things. It's up to all of us to try to make this a better place. I hope this resolution does do that. But the reason I asked the questions I did, I don't believe in walking into a room not knowing what we're talking about. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy City Manager, you would like to share comments before we continue? I see your...
And Mr. Mayor, real quick, I will second Councilmember Turan's motion.
Second. Do you like to share a couple of words before? I see your Deputy City Manager wanted to share some words before we continue.
Well, first of all, thank you for demoting me, but I'll take it.
But I see it right here.
It's okay. Councilmember Perello mentioned it. It was only a couple years ago that we raised the pride flag in front of City Hall. At that time, I was quite surprised to find out that it was the first time that had been done. And then last year, we made the decision that in addition to flying the pride flag in front of City Hall, we would fly it at all city flagpoles. I have to say I was a little bit disappointed to hear some pushback against that. But I just want you all to know we will do that again this year. And I think the fire chief and I have decided we will get even bigger flags. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Basua?
Thank you, and congratulations to Ashley. She's been promoted.
That's what it says here.
You know, it's kind of a shame that we are here having to do this. Councilmember Perallo stated that things are taught, and that is so true. They get taught at such a young age, and we have to teach our children that we are to love everybody, regardless of who they are. We are taught to love and to love unconditionally. So I am going to support this 100%. And thank you to everybody that spoke today. Thank you to Councilmember Teran for bringing this forward, and to my fellow council members. It's a privilege to sit up here with all of you.
Thank you so much, and I want to thank everybody here tonight, you know, for your testimony, and thank Councilmember Teran for bringing this resolution forward. And again, earlier, as was mentioned by one of the speakers, Martin Luther King had a lot to do with how we think and what we do, and what he did, I think, really helped us tremendously. All of us, you know, the black, brown, or lesbian, whatever you want to call it, you know, we're all the same, and as I mentioned before, that we're all equal in this country in the eyes of God. But I want to thank everybody tonight for your testimony. I'm not going to reiterate everything because everything was said very well by our council members. So I do support this, and thank you again so much for the opportunity to hear what you had to say and to support you tonight. Thank you so much. Councilman Teran.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for just an extra moment on this. I do wish to give credit to Councilmember Perillo on something that he brought up. For those who do recall, he did mistakenly utilize a term that was outdated, and in our conversation, you know, a derogatory term. And to his credit, he did correct himself and apologize for that. But he's the type of person, because of that, his character, his integrity, he wants to learn and he wants to use the correct terminology to acknowledge and validate the folks who are seeking to be seen and have the terms that they want to use used for them. And so I do just want to give him credit for that. He didn't bring that part up, but I did want to publicly state for the record that when he made that mistake, he did own up to it, and I did want to give him credit and thank him again for that. So thank you, Mayor, for that time on that.
Thank you so much. So we have a motion by Councilman Teran, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Please vote on this resolution.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. Normally we don't allow clapping, but thank you so much. You deserve it today. Thank you. Okay, our next item is the item K1, and this is the information consent item. We have items 1 through 7. And Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item, on consent items?
Mayor, we do not have any speakers in person or virtually for consent items. Thank you.
Council members, any concerns and items? We have Councilman Perillo, followed by Councilman Teran.
Yes, on K2, well-written. I just have one question with respect to the item. When it talks about there may be costs involved, do we have an idea of a range of costs of costs involved?
Helen Miller. Come. And thank you for the folks that are coming in today. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Go ahead, Ken.
Costs involved will be minimal with the change in the city's website domain name and future email addresses. Those changes can be made gradually because the impact is you can use the old site names and the new ones concurrently. So as stock runs out or signs wear out, they can be replaced gradually as part of the operating budget.
So can I assume then this would be sort of what a normal cost of replacing signs and stickers, and that there could potentially not be some big surprise at the end? Like,
correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councilman Teran.
Thank you. I have a question on another item. So question is on item K6 for the corrective action plan.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. George. Yes. And I'm hoping that we could just take a moment for the benefit of the public to talk a little bit about this item. It's on our info consent agenda. It went through Finance and Governance Committee. But just quickly to edify what we're looking at for our past audit findings and just a summary of where we were and where we are now.
Sure, thank you, council members. I'm Betsy George, Chief Financial Officer. And in the past, so if you were looking back 2015, so eight years ago now, 7 years ago, we had over 100 audit findings in our annual financial statement audit, and that's when the external independent auditors come and look at how we have prepared our financial statements and whether we properly recorded all the transactions. And as work was done throughout the finance department and throughout the city, we were able to reduce each year's new findings, but we ended up at a point where at one point we had 186 audit findings that we were working through to clear, and we are down to 3. One is new, and 2 of them are older ones that we hope to have cleared in the near future. So definitely a lot of great work has been done by the finance department and with the support of course, the council and the city manager's office.
Thank you, Ms. George, much appreciated. And, 111 audit findings and at one point 180 some odd, as you had mentioned, absolutely unprecedented to my knowledge. Maybe there are other cities or other organizations that had that many audit findings. For the city of Oxnard, absolutely a testament to where the city was operationally at that time. And if folks wish to continue to live in the past, they're welcome to do so, but it can be a very lonely place as time goes on. When we look at 2015 and over 100 audit findings, to say that that's remarkable and unprecedented in a negative way, absolutely true. And the inverse is also true, where now, under a decade later, in 2022, 2023, now to be at 3, 2 which are in process and 1 which is one new one. I think at our finance department, our staff, our city manager's office, and this council absolutely deserve credit for that turnaround. And I wasn't on the council to make those decisions, but I'm here now, and I do want to acknowledge the work that has been done on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me add a little bit to that. Thank you. I think the council member said it very well, because the audit findings that we found was really, the City of Oxnard Finance Department has done an excellent job. As I mentioned earlier, what we talked about in 2022 and 21 is the leadership of our city manager and the finance department, and I think care a lot of this audits, but it's really, really important, so I commend you for that. I just want to add to what the council member.
Thank you. It's definitely a team effort. We have a great finance department, and again, the support of the city manager's office and this council has enabled us to put much better internal controls in and processes, and we now have the new financial system as well, which was a great investment by the city, which has also helped us improve our processes and ability to record accurate and timely financial information.
Very, very important. Transparency is really important.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
And it is all available on the website, the city's website. There's an interactive financial tool that anybody can go and look at our data monthly out there. So
Thank you so much for the good work. Councilman Perello, you want to add a little bit more information?
Yes, thank you very much. And I appreciate Councilman Turan identifying the time frame when those 180 some were involved. And I do recall sitting up here when former Chief CFO Kevin Riper and Assistant Donna Ventura were grilled by members of the public, and they both admitted they had never in their careers had one finding on their track record. And to come into the situation and the work, and you're the person carrying the ball right now, the work that's been done has been tremendous for the city. There's a lot of people that do not believe how close we came to insolvency. And it was very close. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Move in for consent.
Move first by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Mayor Bert Perello. And I'd like to share that Councilman Oscar came in at 7:39. And please vote. Item 1 to 7.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item is L1. This is the Community Development Department. Subjects ordinance to regulate and expand the polystyrene. Recommendation, the City Council introduce the first reading of the title only, title only, and waive any further reading of the ordinance, adding Article 25 to Chapter 7 of the Oxnard City Code, prohibiting the use and manufacture and distribution and the sale of designated polystyrene products, and find that the ordinance is not subject to the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to Section 15061B, 3 of the CEQA guidelines. And this again was required under Measure. That's a pre-recorded item, and we have Ashley Golden or Mallory.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. This was, as you mentioned, Mayor, a pre-recorded presentation, so we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of, Councilman Perello?
Thank you. there's been a tremendous effort to try to clean up the pollution and the ongoing the lifeline of this breakdown of these plastics. But I did have an opportunity to talk to Ms. Mallory earlier in the day, and I'd just like her to repeat what she informed me of. If we have people that are buying their products from a wholesaler and they need a, shall we say, microwave, or they need a blender, or they need some material that would be packaged, and that packaging includes delicate material, delicate items or instruments placed in styrofoam. I just saw one this past week. People are unloading stuff for Christmas. And if those packaging, which is in styrofoam, this is approved, will it prevent those people from buying those products from that wholesaler or what distributor, whatever term would be used? And it's specifically the way the terms are. And you explained it to me, and I thought it was a clean answer. But if you could share it with the council and the public that's watching, please.
Thank you.
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Perillo. So if a product is shipped into the city, but the box is not opened and the item is not repackaged, shipping of that product into the city would be exempt. If there is a manufacturer or a warehouser or a distributor who is producing something here or receiving a product and then further repackaging it, that process of distribution out of the city or repackaging would require compliance with our EPS ordinance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other concerns? What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Basua, second by Councilman Teran. Or do you want to
Second, I
make
have a comment as well, yes.
Comment plus?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor?
Yes,
We do not have any speakers virtually or in person for this item.
thank you.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Councilman Teran.
Thank you, Ms. Mallory, for all of your work on this, even your team. I'm wondering if you'd be able to speak quickly to some of the carve-outs, specifically the one around seafood and fresh fish.
Mayor, Councilmember Tran, as a result of engagement and our survey efforts with every business that was going to be affected by the ordinance, we learned that for FDA, for the distribution of fish outside of the city, that there needed to be a carve-out to support our fish industry, our seafood industry here. And that's really due to the distribution of fish, how long it has to travel to get to its destination. And that also has to do with FDA regulations for sanitation associated with the product. So we met with a number of fish businesses. We had participants through the fish and the seafood industry through our survey, and they recommended that that would help the continuation of the support of their business, and specifically in terms of how long it took for a product to be reaching its destination, that that's the only way that they could be viable as a business in the city, and also that there was no viable FDA-approved alternative at this time.
Thank you for that. Much appreciated. And I'm going to ask very quickly if either Diego or Rose, I had just sent a photo over to you, if we can get that up while I'm making this statement. Oh, wow, that was quick. So I do want to point out that I want to thank Mr. Marvin Booz, who does all his work throughout the community, but he had taken this picture a couple years ago when cleaning the bushes that lined Ventura Road in the Hobson Park, or excuse me, in the Bartolo Square North neighborhood. And this is, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. This is a styrofoam container from McDonald's. Polystyrene container stopped being used by McDonald's in the early 1990s. And so you can see how this piece survived all of that time, looking pretty much the way it looked when it came out of the restaurant.
How many years?
Yeah, that's probably 30 plus years, Mayor.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. Ms. Mallory, thank you for the response to that question. I'm hoping that as time goes on here for these carve-outs that we have, if we can continue to monitor them and their industries and If there are changes, such as FDA changes in how they can be stored or shipped for seafood or fresh fish, or any of the other carve-outs, if we can just continue to monitor that as time goes on.
Yes, Councilmember and Councilmember Tran. Yes, as part of our legislative platform and looking at laws, we continuously evaluate how those laws work with our city.
Great, thank you very much. Those are my questions, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion by Councilwoman
Mr. Mayor,
Basua.
one quick comment.
Okay, go ahead.
And just in defense of McDonald's being Catholic during Lent, I get a lot of filet of fish sandwiches, and they come wrapped in paper now. They don't come in styrofoam anymore, so they're being conscious.
And they do have some, anyway, let's go. Councilman, first by Councilman Basua, second by Councilman Tehran. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, our next item is Community Development Department. This is on-call consulting services for community development. Recommendation of the City Council to approve and authorize the execution of the First Amendment to the agreement with Rincon Consultants Incorporated for an on-call contract planning services, increasing the agreement amount by $500,000 for a total amount of $1,250,000, and to award the agreement to Interwest Consulting Group Incorporated for on-call planning as well as on-call development plan check service for the amount of $1,100,000, and also 3, to approve a budget appropriation of the amount of $350,000 for the development plan check services. And again, this was a pre-record under Measure M. Council members, any questions on this item? No speakers virtually or in audience?
Mayor, we do not have any speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Okay, Councilman Tehran.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just hoping that maybe we can share a little bit with the public just kind of what necessitates us being at the need for on-call services, and then I just have a follow-up question to that.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Tehran, Jeff Vangeli, Assistant Director, Community Development. Staffing is the primary reason, and workload. Consultants can generally accomplish the work in a remote location more efficiently than staff, and it's a quicker, I wouldn't say short-term fix. It's not the long-term model for our department to use consulting services, but it's what is needed. And consultants themselves are subject to the same talent limitations of a geographical area that we are. However, they are more nimble in hiring and recruiting. And this reflects the fact that we need to add another consultant. We're increasing the contract amount to 1 and adding a new consultant that offers full service planning and building plan checking services. Because we can tend to, just with our workload and all the other cities doing the same with the good consultants, we can't overload them. So we're adding another one to our repertoire, and we're increasing the line item to another one. In addition, item 3 is increasing the budget appropriation for building and engineering for building plan check services.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, just in general, can you share with us, I know we have vacancies, within city staff in doing this work, which is why we have to look at consultants. Can you share what some of the general job qualifications are for this type of work to do this within the city?
Yes, I can speak to the building and engineering side. Generally an engineering degree and experience either in the design office, construction trades, utilizing that engineering degree and gaining experience, and obviously, or plan checking for a jurisdiction or a consulting service. That would be like the mid-level. A level up from that would be a licensed engineer, somebody that has a professional licensure and more accompanying experience and more able to make judgments based on engineering experience and professional judgment. Those, as we've learned in our own recruitments, it's very difficult to recruit that talent. We were fortunate in that thus far this year we've filled 2 vacancies in our engineering plan check division. We still have an additional one open, and it is a challenge finding a licensed engineer to fill those positions. I can let Joe Pearson, our planning manager, speak to the planning side of that question.
Thank you, Jeff, and Councilmember Teran. Similar to what Jeff mentioned as it relates to planning, we're looking for individuals who have experience processing entitlements. In particular, we're looking for kind of like that mid-level. So again, having processed entitlements previously, experience processing things through CEQA. Also just staying up to date on state laws as things kind of continue to change in planning. Having that experience is a valuable asset for the consultants that we're looking to bring on board.
All right, thank you both very much. And am I correct in stating that the talent pool right now is pretty light as far as folks who are ready for recruitment, seeking out these opportunities, and that's why we have so many vacancies? Is that true, not just to the city, but kind of in the industry?
Yeah, so that can speak to, again, planning, but in the planning field, it's a very competitive work environment right now. So a lot of places are hiring, and then yes, there's, especially as you're looking for that kind of mid-level talent pool, it's just a very hard pool to, or very hard to find people with that level of experience. And then, Jeff, if you want to add more on the building side.
Yes, Councilmember Tran. Similar on the engineering side, once somebody gets a mid-level of experience and higher, they're very, very valuable in the market, and it's hard to break them loose from wherever they may be and or to retain them. So it is very competitive, and consultants are generally more nimble, flexible with their policies of compensation and work from home, and just in dedicating staff efforts to find creative ways to go out and recruit. So it is a challenge. We can, try to be creative, but we have, we can only respond to those who apply and are ready to make the move.
Thank you. I appreciate both of you speaking to that. I will say, Mayor, that like many departments within the city, like many sectors within our economy, the recruitment is very tough right now. And you can see this even in our community development department. And the talent we're looking for at that mid-level, very competitive. So I appreciate the position you all are in, and I thank you for your work, and thank you to your teams who do this work as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Perillo.
I appreciate the questions Councilman Teran just asked, and this is a concern, as he stated, across the board. Whatever governmental, private, whatever, it's across the board. Is there an opportunity for us to advertise more of what we have available? There may be people watching this or people hearing about this that are unaware of how we advertise jobs available. Another idea would be, with college graduations coming up, granted, these are not going to be highly experienced individuals, but possibly doing a little more outreach to schools that would cater to this type of position. And I know that's not an answer that you could off the top of your head, but I know the city manager and assistant city manager are both listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Jeff and Ashley and Joe. As we mentioned before in the committee, I get a lot of calls regarding the permit process and how come it's taking so long, but I really believe as this Rincon and also the Inner West is going to help us, in the backlog that we have with the permit process. And I know you're trying, because I get every single day, I get calls regarding these items, and I hope it was mentioned by the council members that we try to recruit people as soon as we can, and as the councilman mentioned too, you're having a hard time, not only the public agencies, but also the private consultants or individuals are having a hard time finding people that can help us out. But again, thank you to you, Joe, and Ashley, for trying as hard as you can to get us from point A to point B with a permit process, which is really, really important to all of us. Councilor Perillo?
If I can add one more thing, and thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for letting me go. Last night, I had an opportunity to go to dinner, and sitting at a bar eating dinner, and an individual that I was with got into a discussion with somebody and they started to complain about the city of Oxnard, and I shut up. But the other individual didn't shut up, and they got into it. And eventually it cooled off, and it had to do with the city of Oxnard is so bad, it's so this, you can't build, you can't do this, you can't do that. They were all wet, and the individual with me straightened them out. That was interesting. But I will also tell you, we do get solicited, every council member gets solicited by somebody that has a project, and it's not going according to what they think it should go. And when you dig a little bit deeper, you find out part of the reason it's not going because the people that work for the city of Oxnard are following the rules. And somebody is not asking you to break or bend the rules, they're just not giving you the whole story. And they're leaving the impression that we are sticking it to people that are trying to do business in the city of Oxnard. I want to thank you all for your work. And I know you're understaffed, and I hope we can address that, but it's across the board. People are not there. But I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
And with that information that you gave us, it's very difficult, as was mentioned, to get people up to speed or to even hire people that are not there yet, you know.
Yeah.
But thank you again, Jeff and Ashley and Joe, for trying as hard as you can. And we do have a motion by Councilman. Recommendation by, and second by Tehran. Roll call. So that Basua first and Tehran second. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Our last item is Housing Department. This is subject approval of the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association Annual Work Plan and budget for fiscal year 2022-23. And the recommendation of the City Council to approve the Downtown Oxnard Improvement Association Annual Budget Plan and budget for fiscal year 2022-23. And again, this is a pre-recorded item. And council members, any questions?
Excuse me, Mayor, I'd like to state that there are no speakers for this item virtually or in person.
Thank you. And Emilio, you like any additional comments other than what you have here?
No, only that I'm here to answer questions, and I'm joined by Edwin Magana, Executive Director of DOYA, and Steve Hero of the Chairman of the Board. If you'd like to answer any questions, this is something that is routine, and it comes before the City Council for approval after the board adopted their budget and work plan earlier last year.
But it was budgeted accordingly then?
It's late, admittedly. It should have been before you on December 1st, but it is a routine item.
Okay. Councilman Perillo?
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Ramirez. I mentioned it during my public comments at the beginning of the meeting. I had the opportunity to talk to two small businessmen in the city of business persons, business lady and man. Two small business owners, to better put it. And the issue of bathrooms came up again. And they appreciate all the work that's been done, but they hope that something can be done. And I know this is falling in your lap, and I'm not criticizing you, but this is becoming a very big issue with respect to when do they allocate the time for their staff to clean up what the security is not able to get to? Are there any issues? Is there going to be more construction required to take care of stuff? I took some photographs of some dumpsters that now they have major chains and everything on it because it's amazing what's going on. And vagrants, vandals, or homeless, whoever it is, are causing a problem in the downtown. And a comment was made by one of the business owners that a lot of these issues seem to be generated, and the power that is being generated by the homeless community, they don't even realize the power that they have because they do an action and there's a reaction, and the reaction is from a governmental agency, usually with a lot of expense involved. And if there was some way of focusing their energy, maybe it could help. I don't know if that would help you at all or not, but I'm sharing what information he gave me. And he did specifically identify other communities and other nations that have bathroom facilities, public bathroom facilities. One specific one identified was Amsterdam. And I know that's a long way away, but with the electronics, we should be able to find out. Because there are people, and the example that was given to me, some years ago, South Oxnard McDonald's was spending $3 grand a week repairing the bathrooms that were being vandalized by the people in those bathrooms. And it turned out to be a tremendous amount of homeless and drug addiction that was taken care of. Since then, various industries, various businesses in the downtown, some will have signs, restrooms only for customers. Others, having been in a situation that I've been in the past, when you gotta go, you gotta have a place to go. They will let people in, but then they deal with the vandalism that's taken place. A suggestion that was made, there is a city somewhere else that takes a photograph of the person as they go in. And when they open the door to leave, they take a photograph again of the person leaving. The facility is small, only for one individual, but there's an opportunity to identify if they have vandalized or destroyed anything in there. And the agency where this takes place apparently pursues and follows that up. Just an idea. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ramirez, one of the concerns I've been hearing a lot about downtown is trash enclosures, the cleanliness of them, the overfilling of them. And it's kind of a unique animal downtown in that the enclosures in that area tend to be shared by 4 or 5 multiple businesses. And although there's locking mechanisms on them, they're not usually used. And at one time, I always call it Doma, I guess it's Doya now, they've changed their name a little bit. And I know I talked to Mr. Huber about this in passing. I'm told that there's no funding for them to continue doing that in terms of cleanup, but I was downtown yesterday. Well, I live downtown, but I drove through the business section the other day, and there were trash bags laying outside the enclosures, generally just looked unappealing, and I'm thinking to myself of, gee, we're trying to attract businesses to come down here and establish themselves, and they drive through the alleys and see this stuff. So and I did talk with Ms. Golden about this too. And my understanding is that their finances are limited. I understand that. But I just have a hard time accepting the answer, we just don't have the money. And sometimes we have to take a look at other things. Are we replicating things that are done by someone else that we could maybe, use some of that money? I don't know. I don't sit on Doya. I haven't been directly involved with it, other than I talk to Mr. Magana periodically, and I talked with Mr. Huber periodically. But I'm hoping that we can do something a little bit better than, gee, we just don't have the money. And I don't know, Ms. Golden, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add on this, or?
Thank you, Councilmen, both. So regarding the trash enclosures, the Doya does have a program called Civil Sidewalks, and they engage a contractor that maintains public right-of-way in the downtown area, sidewalks, things like that, right? And that contract that contractor does not include maintenance of those trash enclosure areas, the areas within the trash enclosures. We are actively in discussion, Eva Magana and Steve Muir and myself are actively in discussion to try to see if we can make a change to the scope of services of that agreement and see if we can add that scope to that agreement without incurring additional expense. We need some more time to make that happen. That conversation is fairly new, but we are active and we're hoping that that change, at least to some limited extent, can initiate in the next couple of weeks. We will then have to figure out whether that's enough or that makes a significant change or we need to allocate more funding or redistribute budget. But we are in active conversation. We are aware of the challenge and we are in active conversation to do that.
Thank you, and I appreciate that answer. I was kind of waffling on my decision on this, but hearing your indication that you're actively pursuing a remedy of some sort, I'll probably support it, so thank you very much.
But before you do, Councilman Teran, isn't the civic sidewalk part of that 56% of the budget is going to that? Is that part of?
Yes.
56% sounds right,
Is it for the
$311,000.
civic sidewalks?
Yes, correct. I mean, I don't know whether you've seen any of the workers in the morning.
I've seen them, yes.
Whenever I walk to work, I will see them every day, and that's what they do. They're cleaning up the sidewalks, they empty the trash bins, they remove graffiti, all those things. But for whatever reason, maybe because the trash enclosures are serving private businesses and not the general public, Those trash enclosures were not included in that agreement, so we are working on that right now.
Yeah, because 56% of the 548,000 is to the, so potentially, like the Mayor Pro Tem, people look at enclosures, you know, and they kind of judge everything by the enclosures, even though you have a lot of good people cleaning up the sidewalks and so forth, which is, I think is something that we can look at.
There is a variety of cures that we could undertake, and so we are looking at that right now. Some of them, honestly, just needs better enclosures.
Councilman Tehran? Are you done? Okay. Councilman Tehran?
Thank you. That essentially did cover the question I was going to ask, which is looking at the allocation we have for 22-23, 56.75% of the budget went to civil sidewalks. I was hoping for just kind of a brief summary on what that entails for the majority of that budget. But I think we've covered it. Is there anything additional you'd like to share about that?
No, it does include security, as is included in the staff report. So there is a portion of that budget that goes to security. It does not include something that Councilman Perella was talking about, the public restrooms, and that would be a significant expense if we wanted to undertake that. We can't possibly do that in a passive scenario, and so it means a new allocation to DOYA, and if that was going to be something that we would undertake.
And along those lines, would the lack of public restrooms also have to be absorbed by this civil sidewalks budget for cleaning up for folks who can't find a restroom but need to use it?
If DOYA was to undertake it, then yes, I would imagine it would have to be part of that subcommittee. It doesn't need to be undertook by DOYA. It could be a city function or some other nonprofit or some other entity that could undertake it. But nonetheless, whoever would undertake it would mean a significant expense. I imagine that that's the reason that we no longer have the public restrooms, because it requires active management.
Okay. Who currently does that cleanup? Because I do hear of complaints from business owners and those in downtown where folks will have to relieve themselves and utilize semi-hidden public spaces for that. Is that Public Works or is that DOYA who cleans that?
It depends. Actually, like, for example, the trash enclosures, if they happen within the trash enclosures, they're just not happening right now, so we need to undertake that. If that is litter, if that is just trash, an impact on the sidewalk, on the actual sidewalk and public right-of-way, then it would be cleaned by this crew. So it just kind of depends on where it occurs.
Okay. Good. And I would just say to Councilmember Perlo's point, at some point, regardless of who pays for it, whether it's DOYA or the general fund in cleaning up, Councilmember Perello is absolutely correct that at some point something's got to give as far as folks being downtown and not having a restroom to utilize. I will say he's absolutely correct that there are some folks who not only get to a certain age, but maybe have other medical requirements where they would need to, or in my case, having young children and they need to use a restroom, and having to find one in downtown can be a challenge. And so I have to empathize with folks who stay there and don't have a public restroom to access. So I appreciate that line of thinking. My next item here is around district identity and placemaking, which I believe was 14% of the budget. I do want to just give credit to downtown Oxnard for having a very robust Instagram presence. I enjoy the videos they put out, and they're very good quality and engaging, and they get a lot of likes. So I think they're well on their way towards their goal here of identifying or their identity and their placemaking. So I just wanted to utilize the opportunity to give them credit for that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and those are my comments. Thank you.
I also want to mention on the identity part of it, what are we doing? Are we going into the computer systems? How are we doing that? How are we identifying the downtown?
If we could take the opportunity actually to have Abel come up and speak on behalf of DOYA, it is their budget and their program. I mean, the staff report goes through some of the items of how they use the funding, but I think with having the executive and members, it would be good to hear from them.
And Abel, and the identity part of it, what are you doing promote and advertise, the downtown?
So mainly, as you'll see in our budget, most of the dollars for marketing go towards new media in social media channels.
Okay,
We
right.
have a very robust Instagram presence. I mean, that's the way it's shifted from originally we did a lot on Facebook, and now it's moved over to Instagram, and now we're looking at launching TikTok because that's the next frontier. Yeah, those are mainly the media that we're using. We don't do a lot of print anymore. It's pretty much everybody with their smartphones and devices. I mean, you have the more media be able to communicate and us to engage with them.
So, Abel, regarding the trash enclosures and the plastic bags around, the users, the businesses, do we talk to the users to make sure that they dump inside the container, and if there's trash bags outside of the enclosure to actually help clean up, or have the employees take turns if they have to? Because I know it's a multi-use program, but
yes,
have at least those people look at them and make sure that the enclosures are clean, or call ER if they need additional service and so forth, which would really help tremendously.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for that comment. Outreach to the merchants is a big part of our multi-pronged approach to try to finally resolve this issue. It's been a long-standing issue. We've made note of the fact that the back of the house is the impression that we give there is just as important as the front. It's especially with all these surface parking lots that we have. That is the point of entry for a lot of folks that are going to the restaurants. In particular, we see a lot of issues around the restaurant areas, but we do we're consistently going and outreaching to the merchants. We even have a key replacement program. We've taken that upon us too. We have the master keys from Environmental Resources, and we use that opportunity to cut keys. If somebody misplaces a key for the trash enclosure, we will replace it for them as a convenience. Yeah, it's just an ongoing challenge because, employees sometimes, come and go, and, people don't always, and it's just, you got to stay on top of it because, I mean, good habits are contagious, just
And
as
sometimes the employees don't find the container, you just dump it
Yeah.
over the.
Yeah, we do that. And in fairness too, you know what, it isn't, I've done a lot of, unfortunately, field research in this area too, and gone out, and much of that, the garbage or refuse that goes in there is not from the merchants, it's from people who are coming in. They empty out their car, they throw their stuff on the thing, and, so it's.
But I want to thank your employees that you have out there with the little sweepers, and cleaning the curbs and sidewalk. I see them every morning, so they're doing a good job.
Thank you very
Just
much.
for information.
Appreciate that.
Councilman Perla?
Mr. Magana, thank you. Does anyone track the dumpsters that are overflowing? Is it possibly that they need to require the owner of the dumpster to have more scheduled pickups? Is there a tracking of that? Because I know in the South Winds neighborhood, the apartment owners, some of them needed to have more pickups. We do the same thing downtown?
I'm not aware of an actual system in that regard. I've spoken with ER about the frequency of the service, and they assure me that it's daily service. I see more frequent on some of the enclosures, especially the ones that are located near the restaurants that generate more waste.
If it is daily, then I understand
Yeah.
the answer. But if it's not, and if we have identified bad characters, I hope we have some way of getting them in line. Thank you.
Councilman Mazargan?
Thank you. I don't know who this particular question will go to, but as being the last council member on the old DOMA, but now DOYA, first I want to give everyone who's a part of the board, huge kudos, because I know it does take a lot of work, and I know it's a lot of frustration, and it's a struggle, and it's a lot of work being on that board. And I know everyone's there, obviously it's your business, business owners, and that's your baby. You have to take care of it, and, people go out of their way, and sometimes, emotions are high at those type of meetings. But my key thing, we're talking about many different things that we could, do better or, improve on. At the end of the day, it is going to take money. And, obviously, source here, source there. At the end of the day, my big thing is how do we make the pie bigger? And that's realistically by attracting businesses into the downtown. What is the current vacancy rate of the downtown?
I'm gonna, we're in the process of updating our records on that right now, but I would put it around 7% maybe. And I'm excluding some of these properties that, are vacant for redevelopment purposes, such as the Social Security building, the old laundromat. Those are not counted in that number. But we're right there around 7%. And there's a lot of there are some underutilized properties too that we are working to, get higher quality tenants in there. But I wanted to thank you very much for those comments and just take one moment also to acknowledge those other board members that you mentioned that are doing the hard work here. My chairman, Steve Huber, Gary Blum, the chair of our district identity committee, and then Lorenzo Castillo here also, who's been pivotal also in helping us with that trash enclosure issue from the Civil Sidewalks Committee. He's even run volunteer groups. We've tried everything, but we are, as Emilio mentioned, in the process of negotiating to change the scope of work with our current contractor to include that service. So thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Magana. Councilman Perrella.
One more question. In your opinion,
yes, sir,
a public centrally located bathroom in the downtown, how much of an improvement would that be for the downtown?
It's much needed. I mean, we have some hotspot areas that we call, I think, for dealing with giving a place to, in particular for the street population, the homeless out there, but definitely everybody. I mean, I was just out in Solvang this weekend, public restrooms are plentiful there, I think, too. I think it would greatly improve, would help with also extended visits to the downtown, too. If you have a place to go and you could be comfortable and walking around, I think it would be a tremendous boost for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Magana. So we need a motion to approve the work plan and budget for 22-23 for the downtown. Do we have a motion? Gabe?
I'll go ahead and make the motion, but I just wanted to ask real quickly if you all will be, the four of you, if we'll plan to see you on a TikTok dance video in the near future. So I see.
Do a second. Do you want to say anything else, Steve or Mr. Castillo, or do you want to say anything, or we're okay, Mr. Castillo? I think.
I'm a volunteer, not a business owner.
Okay.
And I give myself, like I said, a lot of frustration, but it's for the good of the city.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo.
Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year to you too.
I'm the negative one, always. I'm sorry, but I mean, I think one of the things that I was listening, there's a lot of illegal dumping. I own the Exit Castillo Realty here on 3rd Street, and I have cameras facing especially to that trash container in the back, and I see it everywhere that we need some enforcement with illegal dumping, whether it's police department or code enforcement, because there's a lot of people that come downtown and in the middle of the night or early in the morning dump stuff, which is, I can tell you, it's not the merchants or the business owners that are putting stuff outside.
Yes, unfortunately.
So I think there's something that needs to be looked at. I totally agree with Perrella. We really need some downtown restrooms.
I'm sure if we can catch those illegal dumpers that we can, find them accordingly.
It's something that I think is really needed. Now, as far as enclosures, I think it's the same thing. I mean, a lot of the debris and the trash on the trash enclosures, it is not from the merchants.
Right.
It's illegal dumping, and unfortunately, I think there's a lot of the homeless population that, camp by the trash enclosures or inside their trash enclosures, and it's very unfortunate that we're dealing with all this, and hopefully we can do something about it.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a. Go ahead.
Excuse me, Mayor, just to confirm, we do not have any additional speakers in person or virtually. Thank you.
Thank you.
The city manager or city assistant city manager, having heard that, if any of these businesses have camera footage of that, can you reach out to them and find out if they would share it? Potentially we'd take some enforcement if there's the ability.
Yeah, we can work through Able to know those locations that cameras may be, and then work with our ER, and police and code.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a first by Councilman Turan, and I'll second it. So please vote. First by Turan and second by Zaragoza.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you so much, and that's our last one, and we are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ramirez.
Thank you.
Mhm.